People and their fucking condescending attitudes are so fucking annoying when you're trying to climb to the top. When you're trying to make it and be one of the best business people in the world, and people and their condescending little fucking attitudes, and I've already made over 25 million. In net worth. But no matter where I look, it's all a bunch of fucking bullshit. It's like I don't have a lot of cash right now, so it's like people will say shit like, oh, when are you going to give up? When are you going to give this thing up? It's like, motherfucker, I've been doing this for 10 years. It should be like pretty obvious that I'm not going to give up. You know, I might not make it as big as I want to make it, but I'm not going to fucking give up. You know, I've been doing this 10 years. This is my lifelong dream, is to be the best businessman in the world. Even if only for like, you know, a year, you know, to be overall the best businessman in the world. And that's just one thing I want to do. You know, I want to be the best human. You know, to be the best human, you have to be the best businessman. Business is the answer to being the best version of yourself. And I want to be the best. People always trying to one-up you and say like, oh, but I have this, right? When I'm on fucking welfare, you know, but I'll tell you this much, I got money to afford a nice big bag of almonds. You know, my spiritual health is very decent. You know, my overall health is getting better and better. I spent 10 years grinding on making money. Just to say, like, I don't really care what you have. You know, I have an internal locus of control that I direct to something that I enjoy every single fucking day. I love my work. You know, I live a good life, and I live a life of passion. And if you look down on me for even a second, that's just a way that you know that I'm going to be richer than you someday. For example, you know, being on welfare is like, I have everything I need, but I don't really have too much of what I want. I can't, like right now, I have like these little 8-ounce bottles of bottled water because I don't like to drink tap water because it's not purified. You know, I don't really like to drink tap water, but most of the month I drink tap water until I get my food stamps. And these almonds are, by the way, this big, like 4-pound, however many, 2 pounds of almonds is like $15, you know. And like 2 pounds of walnuts is like $15. I bought this month with my food stamps, I bought some Diet Coke. Okay, I can't live without my Diet Coke. I bought my Maxwell House instant coffee that I drink all day, every day. I bought some ramen noodles. starting to have a taste for like the better things in life. That's how I know I'm going to have more money soon, right? Even if I have to get like, well, getting a job might be like out of the question because you see, money can get pretty comfortable. You know, I would not betray myself and my mission, myself defined, and I believe is a godly defined mission to be the best businessman in the world. And making this video ain't doing me no damn good. But that's not all I want to achieve in my life either. I want to maintain a level of spiritual health. I'm not giving in to greed by getting money. You know, it's not being greedy. There's nothing greedy about wanting a little bit of extra money. You know, I have a taste for the finer things in life. You know, greatness, huh? Greatness. Let me tell you what I think about greatness. I don't think greatness exists. What's been done has already been done 1,000 times. I'm not going to achieve any greatness. I could achieve status, but greatness doesn't exist for me. You know, greatness, huh? Yeah, I mean, I have, with the power of what God has created, achieved, like metaphorically received a lot in my life. And there's no questioning that I've sacrificed a lot to get to this point. So I kind of deserve it, you know. But there's no deserving like to have more money than 99.9% of people worldwide, you know. You don't just like wake up and deserve something like that. I think I'm just an old soul, and great care was taken in building our eternities, and I'm just in my eternity. And I think I'm the only one on this earth that could say that he is in his eternity. And I'm just living my destiny right now. You know, you definitely don't want to be the type of person to give in to your greed, you know. That's how you get fat. You know, the reason why we hold fat on our bodies is because we eat too much food, right? And it's not a good look, right? You know, you get fat, you can't run fast, and eventually you just fucking die because you're eating all the food in the fucking world. But, and So yeah, I made 1.5 million in net worth today. It doesn't happen every single day. Happens maybe probably about once or twice, maybe up to about few times a year that I make gains like that. So yeah, my cup says Victory Monday. Because every day is Monday for me. Every day is like not a new beginning, but you know, every day is like almost just as important as day one. But it's even more critical now because I'm getting older. You know, I'm getting older. I don't have like, you know, I want to still be young and rich, you know. I'm trying to get rich like before I get too old, you know. The way my body feels right now with all this smoking that I do and the soda that I drink, and I drink too much damn coffee, I might have a fucking heart attack or something. All I do in the name of business is like, well, and smoking, of course, is not good. It could kill me. You know, all this shit that I do. I feel like this journey could kill me. You know, I can't pretend like I don't do like all kinds of crazy shit. It's just like I don't get a lot of bitches because I don't shower all the time. You know, I don't like my gut is unhealthy because I eat a lot of microwaved food because it's so much easier, and I don't cut the grass. You know, they cut the grass. I have a landscaping company cut the grass for me. You know, because that hour is just too precious. You know, that I could be the one cutting the grass, doing the dishes, all that shit. I pay people to do that shit because that time is just too precious. And I'm not going to get a wife to do that shit because I don't need the distraction and I don't need the headache. And more importantly, I don't need the headache. But really, when it comes to business, I don't need the distraction. You know, I feel like if I had a wife to take care of all this stuff for me, you know, I would just be working all the time and she would get like lonely, right? Because people don't know just how to, and she'd probably be cheating and shit. And business would kill my relationship. So I just don't get a wife. You know. So yeah, so it's my mission to be the best businessman in the world. That's what I want to do. That's what I pray for. That's what I hope for. But that's not the only thing that I want to accomplish in my life. Business is not absolutely everything to me. Like I care about my health. I want my days to be long on this earth like the Bible says. I care about my money and my health, and that's pretty much it in my family. You know, I care about my family, you know. And right now I'm the richest one in my family. You know, Right now, I'm the richest one in my family. And, you know, the best perk to being a business person of my status is I don't work, I just do what I love, and my status in business is I'm very well prepared. My current status is I'm very well prepared for a career in business. But this is what my passion is, guys. If you want the secret to success in life, the first step is to want it bad enough to take the first steps. And then, you gotta, it's not about motivation, motivation, like as if, like, you're going to summon the motivation to go to the gym. It doesn't work that way. You have to have an incessant love for what it is that you want to do. And and don't let anyone tell you any different. And it's like every day when I wake up, I hop on the computer, and this is just what I do. I'm not forcing myself to do anything. Whenever you're trying to force yourself to do something, that usually means that that's not what you're gonna do, right? And because as we move through life, we learn about willpower and stuff like that. I think that's a thing that's common with everyone who pursues enlightenment. Everyone who's eligible to truly pursue enlightenment. Some people are very strong-willed. Some people operate based on intuition. Lately, for the past 10 years or so, I've been largely operating based on intuition and stuff like that. Learning about intuition and spiritual mechanisms of how to understand myself is like, don't just rely on the concept of God to understand everything in life. You have to understand some of this. I have to understand some of the spiritual mechanisms of how things work in the fucking universe, of how to navigate and understand. My free will is actually very limited. Free will is actually very limited, but you do get free will. You have the power to make choices. You have the power to make choices, and yeah, it's like, I want to be one of the best businessmen in the world. But you have to make that choice consistently over the course of 20 years, And I think if you want it bad enough, like for me, I've like halfway wanted to get in really good shape for the past 10 years. Like halfway wanted it. That tells me that in about 15 years, I will be in really good shape. Physically. Like really good shape, but define really good shape. It's like, I'm in really good shape. You know, is like I've got a lot of muscle, you know, but I want to be lean. Yeah, I want to be lean, but it's fucking hard, man. This fat that's on my body, you know, just does not want to come off. You know, a lot of people struggle with the same fucking thing. You know, no matter how much you work out, no matter how much you try, that little pinch of fat on your stomach just will not come off. And the secret to that, I think, as a certified personal trainer, is you have to have more muscle on your body. That's one of my theories, is as I've built more muscle, losing the fat is easier. You know, and this is not some bullshit theory. This is based on science. You know, it's been said by people that are in really fit, lean, what is considered Instagram ready condition. But just because I'm not Instagram ready, people think I'm not in good shape. I'm in really good shape, you know. You could be a little bit husky and be in good shape. I think husky is a good shape. Because if the country goes down, I live in America, you know, if we have another civil war, or if something happens and there's like a famine in the world or something, you know, you got more chance to survive because you know, you got that fat on your body. And this is good fat on my body. There's a lot of protein in there. Your fat is not just one viscous substance that's made up of Coca-Cola. Visceral fat is the worst. That's why I drink Diet Coke. I think Diet Coke tastes better than regular Coke. And I drink it because it tastes bad. You know, this is like an ongoing process. Like, you got to do what God wants you to do. And at the same time, you have choices to make, right? That's what the Christian... Like, I was raised Catholic, and then I ventured into, like, Buddhism and Judaism, and, like, I studied a little bit of Islam. Islam, to me, is, like, I love Islam. I love Islamic people, but I also know that deep inside their mind, they're fucking crazy, right? And they could really be really fucking crazy. Like, Christians are like the opposite end of the spectrum, and then Islam is like the other end of the spectrum. Christians are typically shitty people that are like more or less like decent folk. That are shitty all the time, but they have these moments where they're really good, right? and Islamic people are good most of the time. But then they get really shitty sometimes, because I grew up around Muslims, The differentiating factor between a Christian and a Catholic is the levels. Is like you gotta go, it's like almost like degrees in Freemasons. It's almost like degrees in Freemasons, So anytime you're in business, you have to watch your back for every single person around you. I'm not too worried about from the most important people to the least important people in your life, the people that you love the most and the people that you love the least. They're all the fucking same. That's why education is important, because if you lose all your shit, if someone steals your shit, of course there's a justice system that'll take care of it. But it's like business competition is not the only people that you have to fucking worry about. I have 6 passwords leading into my fucking computer to access some of my vitals, some of my vital information. It has 6 passwords leading into it, And the thing with getting good at business is if someone steals your shit, you could just do it all again. That's why skill is important. It's important to build upon your skill, because it's important to build upon your skill, because if you you could skill is like a reference, is like a fucking diary. Skill is like a fucking reference point to do certain things and stuff like that. And if someone with no knowledge or experience got a hold of my stuff, my vital information and stuff, they wouldn't know what to do with it. They wouldn't even, it would, a complete newbie, a complete nobody, a complete nobody, someone who doesn't know, or not a nobody, but someone who doesn't know anything, there's no way to get any value. It would, by the time they would even get a penny for, if you get into my bank account, right, I have passwords to even access, and my debit card is different, but I have passwords to even get into my bank account, even for just my welfare check. I have like triple factor authentication on my bank account. So if someone gets a hold of my debit card, I guess that's different. Because technically you could always run it as credit, right? But then it's like there are ways you can get at me. It's just gated behind like a long a list of like barriers to entry that you would have to go through, and that's the type of ecosystem that you have to create. Is like there's a lot of ways. There's probably less than 5 good ways that you could get at me and be successful at that, but there are 0 ways where you could get away with it. So it's like, and that's the type of ecosystem that I've basically created, you know. So, yeah, I mean, and as with anything in life, it's always give equals receive. In order to receive something, you must first put in something one end of the equation. I think sometimes it's all about sacrifice. If you're not willing to sacrifice anything, then in my opinion, you could just go to hell. You know, but it's not all about like how much pain you could put in one end of the equation. The pain ain't cheap, but it's not all about commitment either. It requires sacrifice, like I said. you know, there's a big, and I don't want to downplay it. There's a big aspect of sacrifice to this making money shit. I made 1.5 today. I will have crossed, you know, yeah, I will make another, 10 by the end of the year. And hopefully, right? Hopefully. Because what if there is no tomorrow? What if there is no tomorrow? It's almost like, it's like, holy shit, like, it's like, what if there is no tomorrow? is things can change moment to moment, but you in life you understand. I understand the redemptive factor that making a choice has. You know, making a choice has a very redemptive like factor to it. One thing I've learned in life is you find inspiration for things. You find inspiration for things that you choose. You know, inspiration comes from. Inspiration comes from. There has to be a choice behind it because free will is not completely free. Number one, you have limited access to your own actions, number one. And that's fine because we can make choices. It's all about the choices you make. Some people have more choices than others. I have a lot of fucking choices, because for eons, great care was taken in building my life, So that's the way it went down. And, and we have the power to make choices, and it's like, you can't be the best at something and not be willing to sacrifice, because the love of the gods did this life for us. Sometimes the gods had to sacrifice for us. And the gods get all the money, But we get, in our eternity, we get so much stuff. I get a business. Like, this is amazing. Like, I have a life of passion and purpose, And, I get to feel like, and I am technically somebody because I do have the power to make choices. And so are you. You are somebody too. Everybody is technically somebody. And your destiny is shaped by the choices you make. So, it's like, you don't get to have everything like your own military and stuff, but you're like very, in eternity, you're like very well protected. It's just you never have to worry about it because God is God, and God is like, the universe was created in such a way where it has a way of unfolding in such a way where justice is almost always delivered, you know, with respect to, with like a degree of respect to care for fellow life forms, you know, understanding that we are just like, basically, we don't exist, you know. Evil is real, but evil's not logical. It's not logical to be evil. You know, we care about each other, and if you say you don't, you know, you're just incorrect. You know, you're technically incorrect. You know, there's a degree to which we don't care about each other. But, first of all, I don't care about anyone more than I care about myself. I care about the collective more than I care about myself. I think my logic is pretty well perfect at this point. I've spent a lot of time a thinker, not a stinker, okay? You can't make 20, you know, I forget how much money I have, like, let's see, 72 million, something like that. And and 72 million is like, it is perhaps a like relatively kind of optimistic estimate for how much money I have, you know. But we could call it 25, and I think that's a fair deal, you know. But not less than that, you know. And it's almost like I would rather have nothing on welfare and be struggling to, like, sometimes I don't have food. I have to, like, beg for food at the gas station. You know, I'd rather do shit like that because almost like Rocky Balboa, you know, it's almost like I've become very comfortable with or in poverty. You know, to the point to where you know, what can you really buy with money? Is like, what can you really buy with money? You cannot buy grind with money. The feeling I have as I'm building my stuff and working on becoming the best businessman in the world, you know, is like, and I do call upon every fucking god and law of attraction and even witchcraft and wizardry there is to summon that I want to be the best businessman in the world someday. You know, some people have a dream to, well, first of all, let me go back to what I was talking about before. You can't buy stuff like that. You could buy almonds, which help the neurotransmitters in your brain communicate information within your brain. You could buy Diet Coke instead of like regular Coke. Diet Coke is like 4 cents more expensive where I live per can, you know. I've got 4 pennies to afford Diet Coke as opposed to regular Coke. You know, you know, uh, and to say that I am technically already one of the best business people in the world would be kind of an understatement, is accurate, but I'm in like the top, 10 percentile of the best business people in the world. You know, and I don't have a whole lot of money. I have net worth, but I don't have cash. It's like you can't buy grind. I'm preparing for a future. I'm preparing for a future. Business is just what I do for money. You know, Business is just what I do for money. I also lift weights, train my body, which is very important to me to be in great physical condition. I can't do calisthenics and stuff, but as long as there's not like a World War III or a giant famine or something, you know, I think I'll be all right. I don't know, because if they drop the bomb on us, we're fucked anyways, right? No matter where you live, you're just fucked. So I think the conversation has already been had that there's not going to be a World War III. And World War III would be the war to end all wars, because it would kill 99% of the people on the planet. If you don't die from the war itself, you're going to die from the fact that there's no food left to eat. It's going to kill 99% of the animals too. The only people left would be like the indigenous people of Antarctica and shit, because no one's going to fuck with them, right? Because they're not, they're just like Eskimos, and they wear like bear fur, and they don't even have like guns and stuff. So you got to give it your best shot, and when you want it more than you want anything in fucking life, like if you could just have one thing before you fucking die, what would that thing be? If you put yourself in a position where if you knew you were going to die in 15 minutes, what is that one thing, if anything, that you would want to experience or do before you die? That answer for me has consistently been to be very, very rich. I'm not talking to be a billionaire. I'll never be a billionaire. I'm a billionaire in spirituality. is like you'll never be, you have to, in coming into business, you have to like expect that you're not going to be a billionaire. You know, there's nothing wrong with 90% of billionaires anyways did not start their business with the idea that they're going to be a fucking billionaire. You know, 90% of billionaires probably started out thinking like, oh, if I could make a couple bucks, wouldn't that be great? If I could replace my income, wouldn't that be great? Like this whole law of attraction, thoughts become things bullshit has been taken way out of context to the point where people think that it actually is relevant, that the thoughts in their mind can influence the quantum mechanics of the universe to do their fucking bidding, right? You're just not that strong. I'm not that strong. You're not that strong. God is like barely that fucking strong too, and it's just God himself. They've taken over the universe. Us as a race, they did it, but we maintain. It's all about preservation. That's what life really is all about. Your job on this earth is to preserve the culture of the universe. That you're not in hell, are you? You're not burning in hell. So that should be good enough reason for you, and you're alive, right? So that should be good enough reason for you to say like, okie dokie, you know, well, God obviously loves me. You know, good wins versus evil, you know, because we care about ourselves and we care about other people, you know. But at the same time, what is the evolution of your soul? You know, where are you at spiritually, and what is your number? Actually, numbers play a very important part. It's like a numbers game nowadays. Is like a numbers game. What is your number plays a factor, because numerology is a language, you know. And I am kind of on a journey to be able to speak the language of numbers, you know. I think that would be something cool to do with my life, you know. Every idiot starting out in business values money more than they value their fucking soul, you know. I've been doing this for 10 years. I am 100% dedicated to business as my profession. You know, if I could just work all day, I would. You know, what I'm doing right now is work. You know, everything I do is work in some way. You know, even sleeping is work. My life is work, you know. And, you know, is that what you want your life to be? The level of efficiency in my work is perhaps, you know, varies. You know, sometimes I get a lot done. Sometimes I don't get a lot done. I try to maintain like a relative level of efficiency, you know. And my big sacrifice is to be a fucking hilarious businessman. I like to tell jokes, you know. I don't care too much about sex, you know. I'm too fat to care about sex. You know, some fat guys really like sex, but when I started to get fat, I started to care about sex less and less, you know. sex is like the fucking is like a dream killer. Like, and the love of money is also a dream killer to me, because if someone came to me right now with $100 million for my entire stack of net worth stuff, I might sell it to them, and give up my paradise life of grind, financial lack, and all this shit. But like, I want to do it all myself. I want to do it all myself. And that last little bottom swirl of that bitter taste of thick black viscous coffee is the fucking worst tasting, but it's the fucking best. I love it. So I love the fucking grind. I love the grind. Like, I'm not sure too much how I would respond to having a whole lot of money. I love the grind. I love having a relatively, like, kind of like almost like a painful existence. But it's a good life, though. It's a good life, but it's like, I don't think about it too much, but it's just a lot of like little sacrifices. I don't put cream in my coffee. I can afford cream just fine. I drink black coffee because it hurts. I drink Diet Coke because it hurts. The one thing that keeps me from living a shitty ass life is my fucking cigarettes, man. My cigarettes and cigars, man. That's the one thing keeping my life good. Like, my life is amazing because of these things right here. I don't want my life to suck shit. It's like, you gotta take things slow in this eternity. I know you guys should be trying your best to achieve greatness. That's one thing. You guys should be trying your best to achieve greatness. Me personally, I'm too old. I'm like, washed up is not the word for it. I've had even close friends of mine say like that I'm a washed up soul. But yet I'm richer, healthier, more intelligent, have more people in my life, like the 4 key areas of life. I just shit on them. But I'm washed up because I don't have a lot of cash right now, but I'm only 30, maybe I should think of this money thing more long term. Yeah, I want to be young and rich, but I don't want to sacrifice like what I could have. I want to be the best businessman in the world someday, like maybe in my 60s. If I live to be 80, I'll be damn happy about that. They say right there in the Bible to hope like your days are long on this earth. if you believe that the Bible is the Word of God, they say to hope that your days, or the Bible says to hope that your days are long on this earth. You know, and another tip about life is I think that we build our relationship with God. I think that we build our relationship with God through Christians, through the Holy Bible, Scripture, and our own interpretations of it. Like the Bible is a universal tool, Not every person interprets it exactly the same, There's universal laws. There's laws for young souls, and there's laws for people that are in their eternity. And then God wrote it, so God can do whatever He wants, right? Me personally, I'm a Christian. And I am a demigod. So, isn't that cool? That's what you have to look forward to in your eternity. Is nothing can hurt you. Everything that it was ever going to be done has been done before. And it's been done 1,000 times. And Archangel Michael is the concept that good defeated evil. We love ourselves and each other more than we love just ourselves, But Archangel Michael, my name is Michael, by the way. I'm named after Michael in the name of all that is holy, in good defeating evil. And my name also has universal meanings as well. Michael is one of the names of God, that the good people of the universe subdued evil, and that took a pretty long time. I think that's a universal truth that everyone can relate with, Um, you know, is like, I don't want to suffer, and I'm willing to do anything for myself, even stand toe to toe with the devil himself, but I don't understand pain to that degree, so it's like, you will do anything to make your way out of hell, right? Or you would, right? You would do anything to make your way out of hell, So it's like, and then we've all been there. It's like, what do you think? What is logical? You know, if God is the perfect creation, you know, if God is the perfect creation, you know, he has logic, right? Logic killed the devil. Because caring is normal even for the Don of the fucking mafia cares about people. Right. Or the devil, the difference between God and the devil is logic and caring. Caring killed the devil. You know, is like, I could not watch another living soul burn in hell for all eternity. But at the same time, you have to have an aspect to it where it's like, better them than me. You know, better them than me. You know, it's like, it's almost like if it ever happens again in the history of the universe, it's almost like, well, it's almost like not my problem. You know, fuck it, right? You know, life's tough, buddy. Get over it. You know, sucks to say, but it's not me, right? I think hell does exist because, you know, to maintain a level of integrity amongst our communities and to like I wasn't born in this fucking universe to not be a demon for a little while, you know. It's like you have to, if it's your first fucking eon on this earth and you fucking spit in my face or something, I'm gonna send you to hell for all eternity. I mean, that's the way it's gonna go. You know, it's like we care about ourselves. We care about each other. And if you can't fit into the community that we have in this earth, this universe, then fuck you. You know, it's like that's the way things turned out, is like we care about the collective us. Individuals care the most about themselves. And young souls, people born in the universe that aren't direct, I am a son of every god, you know, but that doesn't make me the fucking son of God or something, you know, like Jesus Christ or something, you know. But my name is Michael, you know, I represent something very important. I am meant to preserve this, and this is the way it works, is we care about ourselves first. Then the people that will be born in the universe come second. With respect, with consideration for the people that will be born into the universe. And the way it turns out is very few people actually go to hell for all eternity. And, you know, it's almost like this, man. It's like We have community standards. You can't go around fucking people over. And it's like, you know what? I could have went to fucking hell for all eternity. Just by being born. You know, that is 1,000% your problem if you go to hell. The laws were invented. You know, God, the gods of the old, lost good people. The only people we lose as the children of the universe are pieces of shit people that can't, like, follow, that can't assimilate or something. Is a difference. Like, just pieces of shit, like, go to hell. And it's like, it's almost like that is 1,000% your doing and your problem, not my problem. I care about myself, and we need to have people that go to hell for all eternity, because, you know, and that doesn't mean you get to get rich or something. People that would trade their fucking eternity for money usually are piece of shit people. That they're going to go buy a kilo of cocaine with their first 100,000. Oh, they'll be bawling their eyes out. That's not even fun. You know, cocaine and prostitutes that use them, we think it's fucking hilarious. The good people of the universe are the real demons. Like, the people that we don't care about are just the piece of shit people. Even demons have their place. They're called outliers. You know, some of them go to hell for all eternity too. You know, is like, with respect, you know, to the fact that we don't exist, that we are just souls that are made up of stuff. But when it comes down to it, if you accept consciousness into your mind, you know, which I am not conscious, you know, I have a brain, you know, is like consciousness, but I'm not right currently in my current state. I'm not conscious. I don't have like an evolutionary, I don't like have logic. Like, in the universe, we have logic, right? And then humans have brains, which represent the artificial logic. Me personally, I don't have consciousness, you know, but I have a brain, you know. And it's even better than consciousness, you know. I have free will, you know. It's made so that God is 1,000% safe, you know. And God wouldn't hurt someone that doesn't have consciousness, just like he wouldn't hurt an unborn soul, you know. Because when you get involved with, like, logic and stuff, is like, it's very easy to understand that we can't, and we get emotional. Emotions are real too, you know. And then in your soul, you know, your soul doesn't have consciousness, you know. But you have a fucking brain that God can do with what he pleases. And he gives us life. He gives us life because he has logic. And Archangel Michael is the representative character that represents probably eons of gods that killed the devil. That logic killed the devil, care killed the devil. And love is what keeps us together. It's a fraternity, man. Life is a fraternity. You're either in or you're out, you know. And I'm not going to fucking hell, you know. But, yeah, to be the best businessman in the world, you know, it takes more than a little bit of fucking law of attraction and shit like that, you know. You have a brain, you know, but you don't have, like, consciousness, you know. I was born without consciousness. I will not have consciousness. There's, like, systems in place that my consciousness would kick in. Right? I have an artificial brain, you know. The soul is an artificial brain, you know. The soul the soul is your spiritual body. You know, when you die, you get a new body, you know. It's called, one of the definitions of the word soul is your new body. Me personally, I want to stay in this body. You know, I love this place. I don't want all that money. I have plenty of money. It's like I've used my free will incorrectly a few times. But that's a part about life, is like an unborn soul is like an unborn soul is like precious, is so precious, you know. And such care was taken to say, like, you know, artificial is the way to go for us. You know, even God has like evolutions. If I'm not 1,000% sure if God reincarnates, but I could imagine that God reincarnates. And I could imagine, because who cares, right? That's another thing about life, is who cares? Is like, go with the flow, you know. Well, in the name of, for the sake, not in the name of, but for the sake of the fact that there probably have been people in the universe that were born to a universe that was naturally not like very loyal to their, that suppressed the free will to the point to where going with the flow was like a bad thing. Is like nowadays we just go with the flow, you know. Free will, huh? You want free will. You could have free will, but, you know, go with the flow at the same time, you know. Even free will is like a mechanism of your brain, you know. You get a brain, you know. Just like in the human body is what? Is probably a lesser manifestation of the spiritual body, the soul, you know. there's many different ways to interpret the word soul. We think about it in context of soul being part about being alive, right? You're alive, so you are a soul. And the soul comes well equipped. The soul comes well equipped with mechanisms to protect yourself. Like, don't you think, like, in a perfect world, things would be a lot different, right? In a perfect world, things would be a lot different, But since it's perfect enough, I think, like, the soul mind kicks in, like, every now and then, and it's, like I said, great care was taken in deciding and determining and how many, like, decent enough children of the universe. And there was Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ was just all good. Not one little drop of evilness in him. In the name of Jesus Christ, I say, fuck it. It's okay to be a little bit evil. I think that's, like, a normal part about life. You have to have a dose of that in you. Because you are, in the end times, in the metaphorical end times, it's you against nature, So you come well equipped with everything you need, but just not every little thing that you want, and God loves you. God's love is worth $1,000,000. Like, you get everything you need, but you can't have every little thing that you want. And they are truly little things. You get what's best for you. Like, you get to keep your best interest. Fortunately for God, it's in our interest to keep God's interest, right? And, that's the way God turned out, is God turned out perfect. The first perfect person was born, and it was God. The first perfect person was born, and it was God. God's money went from top to down. So even God has a few things about him that he doesn't like, and it's the past, the past, the life before him probably sucked ass, the Big Bang, or the metaphorical Big Bang, the creation of the universe, spawned eventually, and then the mind existed like a long time into the future, and the universe in the beginning had this concept of, like, I guess, like, Apparently, nobody knows, but we're here now, So simulations have been run, and we figured out the probabilities of what happened before the universe was created. And it was basically like a 73% chance, like a 69% chance, like a fucking pretty good chance that, like a 90% chance that good would win over evil at the end of the day. But the fact that things kept getting better and better is someone had hope, saved us, hope for the future, and I don't think that was a 50-50, I think this day, or something like Jesus Christ, or the world would never have been run by evil, The world would never have been run by evil, But evil is a part of life, and, it's okay to be a little bit like of a sniveling, snickering, like, they say, like, don't judge others, right? This is just my opinion right here. They say, like, don't judge others. And that's the way people are nowadays. In 2025, people judge each other all the time. People look down on each other. People judge each other based on how much money we have. People judge each other based on if their girlfriend is fat or if they're fat. Or if they're a dumbass. If they're not intelligent. If they weren't born with the best genetics. Is like, I'm sorry, but, I'm sorry, but, it's like, that's the way we are. It's just like, when we have our disagreements, and if someone like talks shit to you or gets in your face, it's like, okay, buddy, then you find something to snicker about them, I judge you, you judge me, we all judge each other. And that I think is a concept of human logic. Human logic. I don't know. I haven't meditated about that yet. So, I don't know. I just want people to know as close to the story of creation as far as I understand it, because I understand it very well, and to give everyone in the universe a job and a duty to preserve what we have. How many Archangel Michaels died to the devil in the beginning of time for us to finally get a grip on evil? The devil's a liar. The devil is a liar, and he doesn't even care about himself. True evil doesn't even care about itself. True evil doesn't even care about itself. It's not logical. That's what I'm trying to say is in our soul, we care about each other. Is 99.9% of people care about each other. We don't believe in the number 666. Those are the people that go to hell. I mean, I believe in being evil, but I don't fucking believe in lies and bullshit, With Christianity spawned an era and a final form of the universe that believes in integrity, Is like be a man of honor. It's okay to be a man of honor, and to be a good person, Like before the internet came out, you had to basically be a bad person to survive, The spawn of the internet and cameras and cell phones and technology, the way we understand it today, and the fact that I could sit here on a laptop and make this video for you guys or with you guys. Is like I mean, like I said, if it's your first day on this earth and you spit in God's face, you've got like a sad life ahead of you, because you've got like 3 more chances to do the right thing before you go to hell for all eternity, because that's the community standards thing. And shit like that happens probably every now and then, Because before you're born, you have choices to make. Like, you're already alive before you're born, For those motherfuckers that do not know, you're already alive before you're born, And if I may interject and say that, like, the mind is already alive before you're born, and you're already making choices like before you're born, and then you're born you, and I turned out to be Michael. Then you have the government. There's like the military, right? The modern universal military is peaceful, more peaceful than evil. I'm not like some kind of fucking war pig swine, but I will hurt you, for the goodness of the collective and for my honor. I will hurt you with my spiritual powers. And then you have like the government, which there is no, like, if I may interject and say that there is no big, like, line in the, it's more like a line in the sand than a fucking, like, fine line between the government and the military. According to the moral law, if it's Jesus Christ himself up there at the very top of the unforeseen government that is judging all of humanity, and it's only like 1% of people that get to go to heaven, I'd probably be going to hell, because I embrace my inner demon, and that's a gift from God, but probability speaking, number one, if there is something else out there, they wouldn't be fucking with us, and they wouldn't win against us. So is like the kingdom of God is like an entirely different domain from the elements. The kingdom of God is an entirely different domain from the outside elements. And when they tamed nature, they learned that they could create different domains with different sets of rules. And hell is a real place. And I'm a demon in hell, too. But I'm heaven sent. I'm like an angel with a little bit of blood on its wings right now, and that's been my job lately, is to decide people's destiny. Is like, we have community standards. You go around spitting on gods. The construct of gods is they have money and power and stuff like that, They have money and power and stuff like that, So it's like, you've got about 10 good chances before you go to fucking hell for all eternity. 10, maybe like 100. The lower you go, the more you keep fucking up, the more you go to hell for all eternity. And you know what? We don't care, because it's like, it could have happened to me, man. And it's like, I want more people in hell, because it's more fun that way. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. Just don't let it be you. I'm already in heaven for all eternity. I really don't care. People have tried to curse me to hell for all eternity a million times. That just helps me embrace the fact that I could have went to fucking hell for all eternity. And nothing. It's like, we care about ourselves first. The unborn are close second. A very close second. As this the future of our friends in our army and our fraternity. And then we have community standards, which only brings us closer together. Like, and then it, is like, it's sad, but so the universe has this probability thing where, like, every now and then someone has to go to hell for all eternity to maintain the numbering system. Right? It happens like every now and then. It has to happen. Like, it has to happen, because you can't just say, like, and at the same time, we don't get it. I don't understand what it's like to burn in hell for all eternity. And I don't care. I truly don't care. What happens to... I care about the people that contributed to my life. I don't give a fuck about the devil, The devil's a dumbass, and worthless to our society. Archangel Michael is the way to fucking go for the children of the universe. An angel with a little bit of fucking blood on his wings and gilded. Like, and it's an earned thing. And I work. I'm a working man. You know, I work in this fucking universe, you know, and I own a business, you know. Money was invented. And I get to make money. Like, you don't know how much money I have. I have $25 million. I mean, it's a lot of money. And I have a life of passion. I get to feel like I'm somebody even though I didn't fucking do nothing. Because technically the choices you make and how bad you want it. You know, but, you know, if you're a young soul, which you all are if you're watching this video, you have like, you know, I have to take it slow, you know, to maintain my integrity, you know, because the deal is like you get money and everything you want, you know, but greatness, huh? Greatness. Let's talk about greatness again for a second, and let me reiterate some of the things I said earlier, but in a different way. Greatness doesn't exist. Like, true greatness is like making innovations. That's what greatness is, and that's what I do. Right? So I'm great just fine. Everyone is influenced by the universe and the cosmic flow of directivity of the way it was designed by gods. And God himself and Michael, the idea of Michael, it created this system that we can be great. But me personally, I don't take credit for anything. I don't claim the claim of being self-made, you know. I don't call myself a self-made man. I've made choices. You know, I've made choices, and I think that's all we have. You know, if you're a young soul, you know, I think you would all choose the same thing, you know. You know, you would all choose the 98% of people would choose the same thing, you know. You don't get greatness. You're not great. You know, you didn't do nothing. You know, that's the best way to be. You know, you're not self-made, you know. How bad you want it comes from something outside of yourself. You get what you want. You get what you want. In life, you tend to get what you want the most, you know. Whether if it happens today or 10 years from now, it will happen, you know. There's nothing I want more than just to be rich forever. Like, I mean forever in eternity and in this life, you know. When you make 25 million, if you ever have the chance to be very well off financially, you never want to go back. You know, you don't want to slide back to zero again. Maybe so that I could just make it all back, but that sense of pride would be gone, and then you would have this sense of, oh man, I fucked up and lost everything, you know. And life is all about how you feel inside. You know, I feel great inside, you know, but I have these little moments of pain. I have these little moments of pain that like make up for it, you know. If it wasn't for the fucking cigarettes, my life would suck ass. I mean, my whole life would suck dick. Like, put it to you this way, in eternity is like, what if it was all over tomorrow, you know? this is what I think is like, what if it was all over tomorrow? You know, what if like there's something else out there that destroys us? I want a good life, you know, and that's not going to make me less rich. Like I said, take it slow, you know, but slow for me is like 25 million at 30 years old, you know. It's not what I wanted, but that's what I got, you know. Community is so much more important than fucking money, you know. And I'm a member of the community just fine, you know. Archangel Michael, the idea of Michael is that he just fucking is like a slave that just hurts people. And he's like a fucking United States Marine in Vietnam. Motherfucker, I am so rich. Like, I'm in heaven, going to heaven, always gonna be in heaven. My job is to uphold community standards. Like, and it's like, for a lot of people, I am the final destination. If you have fucked over all the gods, and if I'm your final destination to say, like, you know, if you don't respect me, you know, am I in your face saying I'm better than you and stuff? I'm telling you point blank, like, if you hurt me, I'm gonna hurt you back 10 times worse until you say you're fucking sorry like a little bitch. Nobody fucks with me, dude. You know, ain't nobody gonna fuck with me and get away with it, you know. I don't know what hell for all eternity is like, you know. My bottom line is like very high, you know. I've never experienced pain I'll never experience pain of like 1,000,000 degrees of pain, you know. It'll never happen, you know. So it's like, you know, and let me tell you why people have to go to hell for all eternity, is because the timeline works like this. There's upward spirals and there's downward spirals. And you can't just say everyone goes to heaven for all eternity. It doesn't work like that, because that's it's easier basically to say that for every length and stretch of infinite time, someone has to go for a downward spiral. Like, and then we have to uphold communities. If one person goes to hell, there may as well be two. There's actually 3 people that go to hell for all eternity for every infinite stretch of time. More or less, one of them is predetermined. And that's very unfortunate. Like, but I don't get it, you know. But it's very unfortunate, you know. Unborn souls, huh? Unborn souls. Yeah, is like, that really sucks, you know. But I don't get it. It has to be that way as far as I understand. Okay. It's what I'm told by God. Okay. There's worry too. Worry carries energy. There's a concept of worry. You know, worrying. But then the unborn souls that have to go to hell for all eternity get like so much fucking money and shit. Like, they're just in heaven for all eternity, and then boom, they got to go to hell, you know. And it's like, you know, and I'm just glad it's not me. So what if it was different and we just decided we're going to do whatever the fuck we want, and a bunch of people go to hell for all eternity? You know, you guys try to innovate a way so that people don't have to go to hell for all eternity. If one person has to go to hell, plus in hell, Satan's hell, unborn souls are a hot commodity, you know. And in Satan's hell, you know, unborn souls are a hot commodity, you know. But really what it comes down to is worry, you know. And we just try our best for people and each other, but all we really give a fuck about is ourselves, you know. You can't just say no one goes to hell for all eternity, because then that creates worry that someone will, creates unrealistic standards and expectations. And you know, it's like, maybe we do maintain, like, at the same time, it's like, who fucking cares? Because I'm in heaven, going to heaven, always going to be in heaven. I don't really care. You know, as long as the 99%, 98% of people go to heaven for all eternity, we have an army against the unseen forces that you're a part of, you know. And if there are unseen forces, you know, and at the same time, you know, have fucking fun, dude, you know. So, yeah, maybe it's more like, I don't know. You know, the truth is I care about people, but I also care about myself, you know. I care more about myself than anyone else, but I care about the collective more than myself. I don't care as much about anyone younger than me as part of the collective. I care about the people that were born before me. I care about God more than I care about them. And I care about myself more than any other child of the universe. And I probably care about the collective God that created everything more than I care about myself. So, only collective I care about more than myself is God. The God collective. The people that came before me comes but I care about myself more than I care about other children of the universe, you know. And guys, I love you guys. Yeah, I mean, worry before you guys get your pussy all in a knot about people going to hell for all eternity. Understand what magic is. The cosmic rhythm created the concept of worry that has an eternal creative force, right? We're able to control worry but worry exists, you know. And I love worry, you know. It basically just has to be that way, as far as I understand. What if no one went to hell for all eternity? The fact is people do go to hell for all eternity. I have my own hell of people that fuck me over and stuff go to my hell. And you burn in hell for all eternity, and it's not less than God's hell either. And I love it, dude. I love it. And just know that if you go to my hell, I don't like care, and I don't spend my time thinking about you and stuff. Like, I cared about you before you went to my hell. You know, if you have this is how you could earn a special place in my hell, is to truly fuck me over. Like, repetitively, time and time again, like, fuck me over. And talk shit about me and stuff like that. Talking shit is one thing, but fucking me over and using witchcraft on me and shit like that, and like trying to get in the way of my money. Like, the president of my company is going to hell for all eternity. It was basically he made the wrong choices in his life. It was already bad enough that we're born chose to be men, but he's a black man. You know what I know about dark-skinned African, not African, but modern dark-skinned black men in America, is you wanted everything. You wanted a big dick, muscles, power, gangs, and you have like one chance to be good to us with all that power, that new power, that, it's like the power you're born with, of like, you're usually born into communities that are very supportive, and you get a big dick and all this shit. Like, you don't know how burnt you are. Like, that's not what life is. Like, being better than everyone else, but being modest enough to bow down to God. Like, that's how you know someone's going to hell. In order to be a dark-skinned black man in modern America, that's where race comes into play. In order to be most dark-skinned black men in modern America, are going to hell for all eternity because they made the wrong choices before they were born. You get like a chance on this earth. You get like a chance on this earth to not go around fucking people's bitches and shit. Like, and if you do it, you got to do it the right way. Do it with like a wholesomeness. This is like, you don't have to be like a good, like, God-fearing Christian to be like a decent person. You're a child of the universe, motherfucker. And it's not your place to misuse power. And if you use witchcraft on me, God, or any of the gods, or any of your elders, you've got like 2 more chances with me, or I'll send you to hell right away. You've got like, hold on, let me meditate on this for just 2 seconds, because I truly care about black people. I'm part Native American myself. We have history in this country. When black people were brought here, first white man discovered America, and then we went and took our boats back east to gather an army to take over the country from the natives, who were very primitive and very weak because they didn't have much experience in fighting each other. They were fighting the elements. They mastered the elements, and weak in military wise. White people had guns, European people had guns, and black people, African people had better history of fighting each other. Native Americans were great warriors, but they couldn't stand a chance against African people, and white people had guns. So the combined collective beat out the Native Americans and moved them down to Mexico and Puerto Rico and shit, and killed a lot of them, and killed probably most of them that were here, or moved them down to Mexico with their guns. So let's find out for a second. Okay, so what I know about dark-skinned black people in America in today's generation is African people basically, the more dark-skinned you are, the more burnt you are in hell. You've got like a good chance of either being in hell or going to hell. If you're dark-skinned in America, and you could tell usually who's going to heaven based on how much you like them, you know. I just don't think Earth is the place to be super rich, you know. It's like you know, maybe dark-skinned black men in America that are descended from black people worldwide, maybe the dark-skinned African people are the unborn souls, because they are godless savages. I've known many people from Africa throughout the years on the internet, you know. They're just like, they're good for one thing, and that's like, maybe we could, in the world economy and the social economy, we could use them for our military. They seem to be really good at fighting each other. And, you know, they seem to be really good at fighting each other. They've like mastered the art of war against each other. Because black people in America are killing each other all the time. It happens like every fucking day in this city. Like every other day in the between East Side and West Side Cleveland, a black man is dying from getting shot with a gun. And, you know, I don't know just how precisely I believe in this, but I think black people, like light-skinned black people, seem to have chosen a rich life, but the bottom line of pain is very high. I'm just a white dude descended from Native Americans. I'm a very typical standard child of the universe. I didn't want power and stuff. I didn't want like an excessive amount of money, just an appropriate amount of money. You know, I don't claim anything that I'm not, you know. When I was in the hospital a couple months ago, someone wrote all this crazy shit all over my coat, you know, like U.S. Marshals, U.S. Marines, all this stuff, you know, is like, I chose all the right things to be for me, you know. In this life, until the afterlife, I am military, you know. because my eternity is already written. It's already been done, you know. They did it for me. That's why I don't claim self-made. I'll never claim self-made, you know, ever again, you know. I did it once for a lie, just to say, like, yeah, I did it all by myself because I didn't want to expose God. Typically, you don't expose the name of God, you know. You don't really want people to think about God too much. That's why Jesus Christ exists. It's because we want people to think about Jesus Christ, not God, you know. Because Jesus Christ is fucking hanging from a cross, you know. Think about that for 2 seconds too, you know. But Buddha is in hell for all eternity. And Jesus Christ is hanging from a cross. You know, don't ever pause your religion and your understanding of the world to better suit your own greed, you know, to get what you want, you know. It's all about tomorrow, you know. It's all about tomorrow, you know. You guys think like I'm the very typical standard son of God, just fine, child of the universe. They call me Michael in representation of our conquering of the universe, or their conquering of the universe. And we continue to maintain, you know, optimal preservation of the idea of preservation of the universe and our ways, you know. I didn't want anything, just a good life, you know. I didn't want anything when I was born in this universe. I just wanted a good life, and I wanted to earn my way to heaven and a good life. It got hard, you know. I didn't get greedy, you know. And yeah, you know, I'm not used as like a weapon. I'm not like a weapon. I am a mechanism, you know. I am like the final destination that if you spit on me, like after you spit on God, spit on Lucifer, even, I mean, you can spit on the devil all you want, you know. But Lucifer's different, because the only thing about Lucifer is he just will do anything to get what he wants. That's why I have a tattoo of Lucifer on my wrist. He will do anything to get what he wants. He will even send an unborn soul to hell for all eternity. He will do anything to get what he wants. That's the only thing about Lucifer. I won't do that, you know. I won't do that, you know. But other than that, you know, I will do anything to get what I want, you know. And it's not an age thing. You know, I am ageless, you know. I live a timeless life. If I died right now, you know, I would have lived an amazing life. You know, that's what you want. It's a good life, guys. It's a good life. Like, it's a really good life. And I don't know if pleasure's the thing. Pleasure's definitely the thing, you know. But you don't want to go into like an infinite upward spiral of just pleasure either, because that's been done before too. Imagine like you're like building the universe and you're like fucking in panic mode trying to make sure people go to heaven for all eternity. Your job as a child of the universe, and I'm just as much a child, I'm not just as much a child of the universe as you are, I am still your big brother. And you're all the fucking same to me. And until you do everything that needs to be done to earn your way to be either the military or the government, because we need a military because we got to fight against the devil and evil and stuff. So the military is typically larger than the government. But you're a part of the establishment either way. And military has even more money than the government. But we call it like military, like the preservation state of like preserving the state of the universe, you know, is like we consider it is like 1 million people per square inch of a density of the universe would equal 700 quadrillion people per grain of sand sized amount of fucking people compared to one God that we have. So that's why you don't get a brain. Your brain kicks in every now and then. And you have to use it. What is your choice? You know, my choice is consistently in heaven, going to heaven, always going to be in heaven. It's just heaven, you know. It's not that complicated, guys. It's not about money, you know. It's like all this stuff. I'd rather have my fucking grandparents alive and not burning in hell for like building this stuff. Diet Coke, you know. Fucking disgusting. I mean, you know how many people had to go to hell for all eternity to create Diet Coke? You know, I bless the world every fucking day, you know. I bless the world every fucking day, you know. But in a fact check, people burning in hell, except for those who violate the most violacious of community standards, the unborn souls that wind up going to hell have the most likely chance of going to heaven in the end times. Because there's no other way. There's no other way because worry has a creative force. Worry has a creative force. And I understand a lot about quantum mechanics, but I can't know everything. It's like, this is fucking crazy, you know. Knowledge is money right there. That's fucking money right there. Understanding a little bit of, you just learned a lot about quantum mechanics. It's pretty much, you know, I can't teach you what I know about quantum mechanics, but I will tell you that there's timelines and dimensions, you know. You can't know everything, like, and as long as we don't have power, like a fucking crazy amount of power, plus God is already in heaven for all eternity. I'm sure he feels the same way about it as I do. Is like, who cares? There's nothing you could do to me, right? Is a blessing you could speak over yourself. Or you could pray for. I believe in speaking blessings over myself because I don't want to bother God. Like, God already designed the mechanisms, and if it goes through, you know, if it goes through, God gave us all tools. We weren't born helpless. So, what's it like being on welfare? Have a lot of time to think. When I was a kid, I was a big thinker. Always analyzing. Don't overanalyze, but analyze things. Is like the way I did it was I would always think like, I wonder what he did to get that, to be a good athlete, to get that world heavyweight championship. Then apply that to business. Like, make no mistake about it, this is what I wanted to do from a very young age. I take things slow, as a soul, because it's all about preservation of myself too. You don't want to be so fucking rich that people look at you and say like, wow, what a wonderful life this guy has been living for all eternity. If anyone's going to hell, it's him, right? The guy that's been living the best fucking life for fucking ever, 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 since the percentage wise, like not the dawn of creation, but the beginning of time, like the start of the timeline, right? As the timeline goes on, the oldest people who have lived the best life for the longest. But you want it to be a good life, but you don't want it to be like, because I lived a bad life for a long time. My life was bad, man. But it's a great life. I mean,